a flag here, so we will not be having a flag salute. But we will have a roll call of the board members. Bonnie Holt.
Here.
Bob Gilmore here. Christy.
Here.
Tracy Caldwell.
Here.
Yulene Piggery.
Here.
Ross Martinez.
Yes.
Jeff Brooks.
Here.
Michael Lloyd is not here. Francis DeMott.
Here.
Okay. We are going to open to public comment. A person shall address the planning and zoning board as well and shall be limited to 5 minutes. And we will only be talking tonight about the planning and zoning parts of it. We will not be talking about renewable energies, solar, wind, or fuels. That will not be on the agenda tonight. That will happen on March 26th at 5:30. And at this time, and two things. Whoever is the spokesman at the time at the podium, I do not want to hear other comments coming out of the crowd. We need to keep it civilized so everybody can understand what's going on. And when Mr. Alban is speaking, we need to be quiet so everybody can hear and understand what's happening. So at this time, I want to turn it over to Josh.
Good evening. My name's Josh Alban. I'm a consultant here to talk about planning and zoning and the proposed zoning regulations that have been brought before the board. As a quick housekeeping thing, May over there will be holding up little flags to give you an idea about speaking. Green means you're still able to talk. 1 minute is at yellow and red is red. So just to keep everybody on the same page and make it equal and fun for everybody. So really what I want to talk about though tonight is that this discussion isn't fundamentally about regulations. It's about responsibility and responsibility we owe one another as neighboring landowners. The question before the county is whether to continue relying on an informal expectation and after the fact legal disputes, or rather they should adopt a structured, predictable framework for each property owner that they can use their land while respecting the rights of the others. Zoning is a good neighbor thing. Property rights are reciprocal, meaning each landowner expects the freedom to use their lands productively and assure that neighboring uses will not fundamentally affect them or impair their use. And that's a big thing here, is that there's been lots of misnomers about zoning through the years. And that when zoning laws are enacted, it becomes what everybody hears is this nightmare of a homeowners association that everybody's going to abide by. But what countywide zoning does is it formalizes those mutual expectations. And it prevents incompatible uses before harm occurs. And that's a big thing here. It's to predict and to allow us to stop bad things before they happen. It reduces the reliance on nuisance litigation and establishes clear standards to prevent conflicts. Now, there are some benefits where it promotes orderly growth and infrastructure planning. Those are things that the county is specifically looking at now with comprehensive planning about how we want to perceive ourselves as a community and as a county moving on for the next 10, 15, 20 years. Protects property values through stability and predictability. And that's an important thing for any landowner. It supports public health, safety, and environmentals. It encourages economic development by creating certainty for investors. And it reduces litigation by establishing clear administrative processes. Now, A professional zoning administrator, which we have here in Crawford County, applies objective standards to promote the efficiency, consistency, and a depoliticized decision-making process. Meaning that each landowner is treated the exact same way for every single case, one way or the other. It doesn't matter who you vote for, what district you're in or anything, everybody gets treated the exact same way. Now, there are some legitimate concerns, and we understand those. That there's the potential impact on property rights and flexibility. Out in the western part of the county now, we have an overabundance of flexibility because there is no zoning. But there's also something else. Before we started this, I contacted the Office of Judicial Administration, and I wanted to know how many landowner disputes had been happening in Crawford County in those unzoned areas specifically, to figure out, was this actually going to be beneficial for those areas? And what I found out is that 90% of the cases about nuisances and landowner disputes are in unzoned areas. That you're spending exponentially more money to fight with each other because we don't have a formal set of rules for everybody to abide by, than finding the common ground that we can all meet on, what rules we can agree upon to allow each other to work together so your uses don't infringe upon mine. There's also issues where there's the seen increased administrative and compliance costs. Applications cost money. Whether or not I've got to go get a survey to do this, what I'm going to do with this part of land. And that's a legitimate concern. It is. Part of zoning and part of planning is knowing what things are going on because we want things to be orderly. We won't want to put things in areas where we hope to expand residential. We don't want to put a rock quarry in the middle of an area that's going to have prime residential areas for a growing community. Because we hope to grow as a community. We don't want to grow just willy-nilly, and we don't want to just grow so fast that we have no idea. But when we grow, we want to know when, where, and how. And that's part of zoning, is to allow us to properly plan, properly organize, and properly get things moving in a direction to where we make sure that the future is protected as well as the present. We want to keep those landowners well advised of their rights, but we don't want to do it at the expense of the future. There's also the ideas of risk of bureaucratic overreach. We're human. We fight. We have biases. We have all sorts of things that are going to affect our abilities. But bureaucratic overreach is one of those things, is why we have in our country those different balances, checks and balances. Because if you don't like what the zoning administrator does, then you have the zoning board. If you don't like what the zoning board does, you have the county commissioners. And if you don't like what the county commissioners do, you have the district court. If you have the Court of Appeals, Supreme Court, you have so many bites at the apple that if you don't like what's going on, that is your rights as not only landowners, but as citizens. And so I understand that that's a real concern. But the only way that we can ensure that we don't have bureaucratic overreach is if we make sure what we're doing is not vague. It cannot be arbitrary, can't be capricious. It has to be something that is clear and transparent. That's why we have these public hearings. It's because we want you to know what regulations we're putting there, what rules that we're making that are reciprocal for everybody, Because how are you supposed to know what game we're playing if we don't give you the rules? How are you supposed to know where the field goal is if we keep on moving it? The rules are there to keep field goal where it's supposed to be, make sure you're on the right field, playing the right sport, that everybody's doing the same thing. There's something else that we have fundamentally that's not independent only to Crawford County, but to anybody where we have a cultural resistance to historically unzoned areas. We have been doing it for this long and it's worked so far. If I want to sue my neighbor, or if I want to do this, if I want to put up a 3-wire fence instead of 4-wire or a 6-wire fence, if I want to cut out this pasture because I want this now to be pasture, but over there I want this to be tiered for feeder corn, if I want to do this, I've never had to ask anybody's permission, and I'm telling you, you don't. Agricultural uses that you have been used to, and 90% plus of that unzoned area are protected as rights of citizens of the state of Kansas. Agricultural rights are protected no matter what. We are a right to farm state. And anything that goes along around the realm of the farming is protected. Plain and simple. The last thing is a real issue. And we hope that our processes that we make it avoid this, but possible delays and around affecting development. The need to come in and get a permit instead of just going out and building. The need to get this. But sometimes delays are inevitable, and sometimes delays happen for good reasons. If I were to say that the entire county was unzoned, and without you asking anybody where you're going to build your house, and you just started building, without asking anybody, there's going to be a lot of problems. And a lot of problems that you don't necessarily know. Number one, let's think about it. Who has rural water? Does rural water have hookups out there? How much am I paying in for my rural water hookups? Do I have sewer, trash? Oh, am I going to have septic system? Okay. Do I have enough area of land for a lateral field to hook up? How far is my neighbor? Where do I want to build? Has there been any other things out there before? There's lots of things that go on during building that we don't necessarily look at that are important to do, and sometimes delays happen for the right reasons. And so, yes, there are the cons, and those are it. Bureaucratic overreach, administrative processes, costs, and I understand everything about the cost of living is going up. Everything. And this is one more tax that we're adding on to you for building, because you got to get a permit now. And so what we're asking you to do is balance your freedoms with structure. To balance your rights versus your neighbor's rights, we're asking you to balance so we can make sure that the rules are equal for everybody. So we don't have fights in the court, fights in the commission room, or fights out on the street about what one neighbor's doing with their land versus another. So a carefully designed zoning system includes clear and objective standards, defined limits on those administrative discretions, transparent procedures, appeal rights through our Board of Appeals, through the County Commission, through the District Court. Retained oversight for major discretionary decisions. Those things are necessary. Because even then, there's other projects, other commercial buildings, landfills, things like that, that have to have continued oversight, that sometimes the state doesn't do that. Or sometimes nobody is paying attention to what a quarry's doing, or nobody's paying attention where their neighbor's dumping. And so sometimes discretionary decisions need to have continued oversight because we have to make sure that you're still doing the right thing. You're still being a good neighbor. So, countywide zoning is what I am proposing as a consultant when it comes to regulations for planning and zoning. You can't have half of the county playing by one set of the rules and the other half not. Countywide zoning, when thoughtfully implemented, is not an abandonment of your property rights. It is a structured recognition of the property rights exist alongside with equal rights of your neighbors. It promotes predictability over conflict, planning over reaction, and shared responsibility over uncertainty. And the question is not whether property rights matter, because they do. The question is whether the county will provide a fair and orderly framework to ensure those rights coexist harmoniously. So on the website, there's been implemented our proposed zoning regulations. Tonight we're going to speak specifically about zoning regulations through Article 1 until Article 7. Article 8, 9, and 10 specifically are reserved for a public hearing on the 26th at 5:30 because those have had more feedback, more concern, and it requires its own personal public hearing. Because we understand that there's a lot of animosity, both for and against, and we want to make sure that those regulations thoroughly represent the mood and the tenor of the community. Article 11 through 15 will be discussed today, and so I'm going to give you just a quick preview of most of the articles as they stand. Article 1 is our basic title and purpose, what gives us our authority to handle this. So under Chapter 19 of the Kansas statutes, counties are allowed to organize their statute or their counties into different areas, provide regulations, and do such through their home rule authority to allow for the orderly planning of economic things as well as provide for the safety and public welfare and health of the citizenry. So Article 2 goes into rules and interpretations, how we interpret rules, how we deal with conflicts between those rules, and that's also where you find the majority of all of our definitions. Definitions become very important because that's what you look to determine when there's going to be issues or whether there's going to be conflict, or determine what things are going to be allowed by either conditional use, permitted by right, or whether we require what we call a variance. Article 3 outlines what the districts are. There are 3 basic districts that we are asking for. A commercial district, a residential district, an agricultural district. On the western part of the county, where there is no zoning now, at this point, the consideration and the recommendation is that it is all put into what we call an agricultural district. Agricultural districts are just that, they're agricultural leaning, which allows for homesteading, building of homes, farming, ranching, any other type of farm or ranching type of equipment and opportunities, services, things such as that. Residential is just that, it's residential. Usually done through subdivisions, which we'll talk about later when it comes outside of an urban area, outside of your zone municipal areas. Commercial is just that, it's commercial. Now with comprehensive planning, we are asking for designated commercial zones along the major highways, 69, 400. And that way, that these are areas that we're earmarking for potential commercial growth, that when we're planning for things, we're outlining that this is what we want to hear then we're not saying that the agricultural areas there is going to go away, but if there's anything new, we're going to designate this for commercial zoning. This also talks about annexation, rules where uncertainty may lie, variances, different types of violations, floodplain developments, and how a conditional use permit works. Article 4 outlines specifically what an agricultural zone is. Goes through the intent, permitted uses, conditional uses, bulk regulations. These are your standard things. Here's what I tell everybody. If it's agricultural, nobody's going to say no. That's just it. Certain silos, if they get high enough, the FAA might want to know they're there. I don't think that they're there, but it's possible. If you got a mill for a water pump, nobody's going to care. If you're going to partition off your land for certain sections for pasture, certain sections for farming, certain sections for feeder, nobody's going to care. Agricultural zone is just saying this is for agricultural. I don't want to put a general store right next to it unless they ask me to, so we know where it's going to be there. If it's agriculture, I'm not going to put a bunch of houses next to a hog farm, because I don't want to hear them come back and start suing over smelling hog manure and hog effluent 24/7. And believe me, there's actually a Supreme Court case going on right now that's just about that, spraying of hog effluent. Article 5 is our rural residential district. It's just that. We're talking about what land you need for a residence. Mainly this is talking about your sewer systems. You have to have so much land to be able to allow for a lateral field for a septic tank. Want to make sure you have enough land. Want to make sure that you're doing this the right way. We don't want you to have problems. And if you're trying to resell that house, we want them to be assured that when you sold that house, that we made sure that you did it the right way. So it's not just protecting you, but it's protecting your use for that future buyer. Otherwise, your title insurance may not cover you when they come back for a lawsuit. Article 6 is a general commercial district outline. It gives you permitted uses on how to rezone, what conditional use permits will be allowed, things such as that. Now, when I say all these conditional uses and permitted things, so there's two different sides of things. Permitted use means that there's no additional permitting needed. You say, I need a building permit. This is what I'm building. We say, okie dokie. Tell us what your plan is real quick. We'll fill out your plan, permit. We're done. Conditional uses permit saying, we're not saying that you can't do it, but there's special things that we need to know about this to make sure that it's done right. That's what this is. Conditional use permits come before the zoning administrator on certain low-level administrative sides. It will come before the planning board for those more discretionary, more higher, more immediate things. That's it. It's not there to say, well, if this is the only thing I can do here, or this is the only thing I can do, or I can't do anything else. What it's saying is this is a list of things that we can do. There are things that are going to be like this, and we can consider it. If there's something that we haven't thought about, bring it to us. We'll figure out how to do it. Okay? Article number 7 is talking about subdivisions. Subdivisions come in and talk about grouping homes together. There are certain areas in the county that are in unzoned areas but are clumped together. I like to say places like Farlington, Franklin. Technically, those are subdivisions. There's other subdivisions just on the north side of Frontenac. There's other subdivisions out west 126, I think, West 4th Street. Same thing. Ensuring that there's enough rural water hookups, making sure that there's enough area for sewage, if it's going to be a shared lagoon system, if it's going to be a shared septic system, if it's going to be individual septic systems. We want to make sure that everything is done nice. So at a certain point in time, we want to make sure that everybody who owns a house there has a driveway and a public road in which they can get to their home. Otherwise, they're going to need a helicopter to get to their area or somebody's permission. Going into Article 11, this is our special events. This is our pumpkin patches, our corn mazes, and all those things that we like to do. Basic things. This comes straight out of our old book. 12 is nonconformities. So these are our existing things that don't conform into our districts. These are also things that come in that don't necessarily fall into a district. How are we going to deal with it? What are we going to do? Article 13 talks specifically about the Planning Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals. It tells you what their authority is, what their job is, how they get elected, how they run a meeting. Let's tell you, so once again, we're not trying to close the curtain, tell you, or not show you what's behind here. We want to know how, who, what, when, where, how things are done. Article 14 is about amendments to this and rezoning. So, like everything else, this can be amended. If there's things that we liked then and it didn't work out and we want to change, well, we can amend things. Rezoning is another thing, is if I own something and I want to take off part of it and zone it to something else, or I've got a prime piece of land that was once great for just a roadside stand, but now I want to turn it into a supermarket. Well, let's rezone for it. Let's plan for it. Let's make sure that it's going to fit into the plan. Article 15 is about enforcement and violations, how we deal with them, where things are supposed to go, fines, all that great stuff. That scary thing that we're all mad about is that if we don't do what they say, what's going to happen to us? What are we going to do? And that's it. That's all the regulations we have here. 8, 9, and 10 are about, one is wind, one is solar, one is about commercial methane production. Those we'll talk about much more in depth at the second hearing. But outside of that, these are the regulations that we proposed. Your first book was close to 280 pages. We took a lot of those regulations and cut them down. There was a lot of things that pertain to something that may happen in Johnson County or something that may happen in Lawrence, in a city, or something like that. But it's things that don't happen in Crawford County. And if it's not going to happen in Crawford County, we just don't care, because this is made for this county. It's not a cookie cutter. Every county is different. Every county has individual needs. Every county has something that is special and unique to it. And so when we took these regulations and what I proposed, it was what I thought originally was needed for Crawford County. And then over the last 4 months, give or take, we've had 8 work sessions with the Planning and Zoning Commission, represent each part of the area of the county. When we sat down and we talked further about, well, this isn't going to happen, or we want this to be more tightened here. This we don't care about here. This needs to be worded better. Josh, your grammar's horrible. Come on, work on that a bit better. And so on and so forth. But that's what happened, is that it's not just me shoving up a bunch of rules into somebody's face. It's, here's what I see on a legal on a standpoint of what I've seen, my experience, the things that I see. Personally, I'm a land use attorney. My job is to go and argue zoning laws, land use laws throughout the state. I've argued land use from one corner of the state to the other. These are things that matter in a lot of different counties. There are a lot of counties that some are more important. So the things that I would suggest to happen in Wyandotte County, I wouldn't suggest necessarily to happen in Crawford County. But some things in Crawford County I might suggest in Cali County. or I might suggest up in Phillips County or Brown County. And there's some things that happen out there that don't apply to Crawford. And so after these 4 months, we've put together a book that we think represents the needs of the county, what we think are those reasonable rules for us to be good neighbors, to make sure that you have equivocal property rights that are balancing freedoms, that are also balancing our rights as property owners, and balancing those rights for orderly structure and that good neighbor standard that we're talking about. So I'm going to open this up for questions. Ask it of the board. If it's something that deals directly with regulations, I'll be happy to answer if I can. It might be something I can't. If it's something directly for the board, please ask. We have a sign-up sheet.
First one on my sheet is Becky Willard.
I don't actually have a question. I was just going to tell you why we support zoning. Why zoning protects Crawford County residents. We support zoning because it's a basic form of protection for property owners and residents of Crawford County, especially when it includes reasonable regulations. Zoning does not take away agricultural freedoms. It simply provides a framework that protects neighbors with activities or from activities that could damage property, safety, or quality of life. Our own experience proves this. We've lived in the zoned area for 41 years. During that time, we've built a home, built a business and operated it, installed multiple sewage lagoons, built barns and other structures, installed fencing, raised cattle, and all within the zoning regulations. In over 4 decades, we have never once had an issue with the county. No one has questioned any of our ability to operate our property. Zoning provides important protections. Zoning exists so that residents have legal recourse if a neighboring property creates a serious problem. An example would be like a stack of tires at the road, buildings that are placed on direct property lines, activities that damage neighbors' land or property, any use that threatens public health or safety. Without zoning or regulations, neighbors have very little protection when situations like this occur. Agricultural zoning still allows freedom. The freedom is not restrictive to the way some claim. Farmers can still farm, livestock operations continue, buildings, barns, and fencing can still be built, property owners still use their land as they wish. Ag zoning simply ensures that everyone's rights are balanced, not just one person's. Zoning protects neighbors and property rights. The real purpose of zoning is simple. It's to protect property values, protect health and safety, protect neighboring landowners, provide clear rules and fair enforcement. It's very difficult to understand the fear of zoning unless someone plans to do something that infringes on neighbors' rights, damages surrounding property, or harms the community's safety or welfare in some way. Reasonable zoning does not stop responsible property owners. It simply ensures that one person's actions do not harm anyone else's. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, let's see, the next one, and I'm gonna mess up your name, I know, is Giovanna Brackett.
You did not mess it up at all.
Great.
You did great.
I'll mess some of these other ones up, I guarantee you.
You did great. Thank you all. First of all, I want to thank all of you for opening this up to us and giving us the freedom and being able to speak to all of you. And I know that your hearts are genuinely open, so I'm really grateful for that. My name is Giovanna Brackett, and my dad and his dad started farming in like the 50s. They bought their farm, and so I have always lived in this zoned area. And frankly, I did not even know that I was living in a zoned area until all the talk about zoning started. And so I also do not understand the fear of zoning, because I have always felt that I was free. I mean, I know that in the lifetime of our farm, I know that Dad has taken some of that acreage from farming acres, and he's put up a fence, and he's, I mean, we keep being agriculture. I mean, we've grown and flourished since the 1950s. So I don't see zoning as prohibitive. As a matter of fact, I see it as like an opportunity because, people that want to move here want to come to an agriculture rural area. They don't want, they have a certain perception when they see Crawford County. It's like in one of our meetings, they were talking about, this guy said, I moved here because I loved what Crawford County is. And he said, now there's a chance it's going to change, and I don't like that. So the fact that zoning would be all over gives that assurance that when we're marketed as a place for people to move, that they know what to expect and what to, to understand. And, I drive a school bus, and we have, every seat is a community. And so all of those kids know what the rules are, and they know what to do. And so it keeps the fights to a minimum. It keeps, because if we all understand that we're all working together, kind of rowing the boat down the stream, then we all understand what our place is and what we're doing. And so I've never seen zoning as restrictive. I actually see it as freeing because I know what I can do and I know where I am. So I just wanted to kind of, reiterate the fact that I live in a zoned area and I don't see consequences with that. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, our next one on the list will be Max Rowe.
All right. Yep, Max Rowe with Shasta Power. I'll keep my comments focused on the zoning process as you requested. I could go on about other things, but I want to respect the process that you guys have laid forward. I just want to say thank you for members of the board for taking, I know you guys have put a lot of time and work into developing and putting forward clear zoning guidelines. I've read it top to bottom, and I think you guys have done an excellent job so far. So regardless of the outcome of this matter, I, as Shasta Power, and our team all really appreciate the work that you guys have put forward to clarify the rules, create consistent, transparent process for everyone trying to do things in Crawford County. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Max. John Kopiak.
Hello, I'm John Kopiak from Shasta Power also. Just here to thank you for proposing zoning regulations. It's a big undertaking, and we do appreciate that. My only question is, what happens after March 26th? Would you be able to explain the process of
We'll leave that to Josh.
Okay, thank you.
After the public hearing on March 26th, we will have a zoning meeting to discuss the findings, determine whether there were any comments or things that needed to have more work sessions to whether refine a certain section or to change some of our recommendations. After those meetings are completed, we will send a recommendation to the county commissioners. So the planning board doesn't actually implement it. It's the county commissioners that then will vote on it. So the county commissioners by law have 3 things they can do. Number 1, they can approve it as it stands. No questions, we're ready to go. 2, they can send it back with suggestions and recommendations. They can say, I don't like this, and this. Go back to the board and fix this. Option number 3 is they can reject it in its entirety. So if they reject it in its entirety, we go back to the beginning or we ask for further clarification of what we're going to be doing. If they send it back for addition corrections, we go through, we take their recommendations, we go through those specific, we take those recommendations, we tweak back and forth, and we resubmit it to the commission until it is approved or ultimately denied, one way or the other. Once it's approved, the county commission will then authorize by resolution, we'll have a date certain when the regulations come into place. At that point in time, all the new zoned areas, if it is countywide, will receive notice that the zoning findings will be given an opportunity to review those zoning regulations and things such as that. Most things that are non-conforming are automatically granted. It's a grandfathered in. There's only very, very specific things by state statute that are not allowed in. But from my last review of deeds and the current things of the structures, I don't think that any of those things apply to Crawford. Callie's on the mind. At that point, we have our date certain, zoning comes official. Any new builds in that unzoned area will then go through the zoning process as needed. Things in the current zone area will be changed to the new zoning code. So there's things that were in the old zoning code that aren't there anymore. So there's some laxities, some processes that are different. And that still depends on what the commissioners themselves approve or don't approve. They may want to tweak one way or another. But that's the general flow of what that would happen after the 26th.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm not gonna try your last name. It's Randy, it lives in Heflin. I wasn't gonna mess it up.
So you never messed it up. My name is Randy Winterbar. I live in a non-zoned area, as it is, in Hefler. One thing I'm trying to understand is if you come in zone, is, say for instance, you get somebody gets crossways, like you're the one who makes decisions of what's gonna happen. If we didn't get along, could you more or less say, make my life live in hell? You know, of being zoned. Where they could tell you exactly what you could do, what you couldn't do, and things like that. And I don't know, that's what I don't quite understand.
No, because the zoning rules and regulations are gonna be the same for everybody.
Right, but if you get a group in that does not get along with that person, or whatever that, could they change that and make, not go in there?
I think our recommendation is going to be to sit down and try to get it worked out amongst yourselves so everybody gets along.
Right.
Because the way we're gonna, the zoning is gonna be enforced, it's not gonna be somebody just riding around out there looking for stuff.
Well, that's what
It's on a complaint-driven basis.
Okay.
And if nobody's complaining about it, they just pretty much keep on going as normal.
So what would be the difference in not having a zone of not doing the same thing what you're saying?
Well, yeah, but by not being zoned, for an example, where you live at, if somebody wanted to come in and put a pig farm or something like that in there and you don't want it, and it don't fit that area, you can't do nothing about it.
Well, like where I live at, I'm less than a mile from the windmills and that, either direction, as it is. I can hear them at night, things like that. That we're right on the edge of the Bourbon County line. It's kind of, we're lost people up there as it is, that's not anything comes up to help take care of us.
Well, the only thing I could say to that Josh could maybe say something else, is that them windmills now are going to be grandfathered in.
So is that also the ones that run in Crawford County already now?
Yeah, they're there. They're there. We can't do nothing about it.
Right.
But we can do something about anybody else trying to put some more in there. If we have rules and regulations that apply to that. Right, Josh?
That's correct.
But what happens if the people that owns the property would like to have them on their property?
Well, he'll handle that one.
So if you want to have something and it's not part of the zoned area, you come and apply for it. If it's not
But
part
is that also on classified on solars also?
that's something we'll talk about more on the
Right, but
26th.
I'm just saying, if you're saying that, you have to more or less say, go through the process of saying that you don't, you can't do it your own. Because like where a person, they pay their own taxes and things like that. Where I don't understand where a group could come in and say, no, you can't do that. Because even you don't ask for them to come up and pay for anything of your own. That's what I don't understand.
So what we're talking about is is allowing for you up in Hepler to have the same rules and structure as somebody down in McCune. And that if something you want to have on your property that might affect your neighbors, that they would have an ability to say, I don't want that, and we could come in and talk about it. We could come in and look at rules to say, well, what rules do we have in place so we can harmoniously act between each other? Because you said something at the beginning there that becomes very important. Say, you live up there, you can hear them at night.
Yes, I didn't know
They're
about me
not-
at all.
And if they're not on your property, but you can still hear them, you're an affected person, right? And at that point in time, what we're saying is that without zoning, you're up without a paddle, if you know what I mean. The ability to have zoning is to have an ability to talk and to have recourse, to have somebody ask, somebody to notify, and somebody to advocate for the rights of not just the one property owner, but for all the affected property owners.
So if the property owners all the way around you agree to that, is that,
Then you're fine.
so if the property owners all the way around you agree with you wouldn't have to have a zone to there, correct?
Not necessarily, because you're also talking about different rules that the county has been given as part of their government authority, which is public safety, health, and welfare.
But you're telling me 2 or 3 different ways, it's not.
Well, what I'm telling
More than saying you're not following all the same straight down.
Well, what I'm saying is that those rules aren't just about your direct 1,000-foot neighbors. It's about the neighbors across the county that your one situation may not affect them now, but it sets a precedent for that to affect them later. Meaning that if there's something that we've allowed on this piece of property up here, that allows a precedent to say that I have to allow it down here. And it might not be right down here. Might have been fine up there because all your neighbors agreed to it. But down there, it doesn't work because there's schools, there's quarries, there's highways, there's lots of other things that affect it. And because we have to have structure and order when we are planning.
But the same thing don't affect here as it does at McKinney.
But that's what I'm saying is that we're still trying to be neighbors. We can't change the game just because we're at one corner of the county versus another corner of the county. You all still have to be playing the same game.
Okay. Thank you. I want to meeting.
One thing, just a thing, if you go to Kansas City, you'll notice up there that you see Lynn County,
Yes.
all zoned. Lebec County, I believe, just went all zoned, which they had not had it before. So there's reasons behind it, and everybody's looking at them and seeing the reasons.
But what applies up there shouldn't apply to us down here because we don't live the same as they do up there.
No, but it's, the overall areas is the same type.
Okay. All right, thank you. Have a good.
Now, here's another one, I ain't gonna mess your last name up. I think it's Zach from Walnut.
Spit it out, Bob, what's his last name? What's his last name?
It can't, it cannot, it looks like a Z, is it, somebody start with a Z?
Is it Michael?
Oh, is it Michael Deere, Michael, or is it Michael?
You need to get the first.
Well, what's great is I actually didn't mean to sign, I just thought I had to sign in, so I actually didn't think I was speaking.
Oh, okay, if you don't want to, you don't.
Well, since I'm up here.
Yeah.
So actually, I built a house, just so you guys know, on the far, right when you come into Crawford County from Neosho County, I built a brand new house back in 2022. So obviously, I got a vested interest that we could hopefully put some sort of zoning in to protect us from the potential blighted projects that could come in through there, because obviously there's been some of them. That's not why I'm here to talk, but just that's what I'm hoping we'll go towards. So I support countywide zoning.
Okay, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Mark Mackey.
McAtee.
Okay,
I'm Mark Mackey. I live to the west of the zoned area on the Gooding Road, so I'm west of 120th Street, and I grew up, out on 47 Highway, west of the zoning area. We've never had any issues not being zoned there before. I understand the purpose in zoning, and I support zoning in the more populated areas where it currently is in the southeast corner of the county. But when you get into the west and out there, it just hasn't caused any problems. I don't see any reason to mess with it. So I have a home and a business on the same property. I would be probably what would fall in that agricultural zoned area, but on the same piece of property, I have a home and a business. I don't want to, if I need to build onto my business, which I'm probably going to do, I don't want to have to go get permits. I don't feel like I should have to go get permits. I'm out there, I'm not hurting anybody. All of us get along out there as neighbor-wise. I believe that most of this has come apart based off of everybody trying to try to keep the windmills from coming in. I know that's not what we're here to talk about now, but that's why all of a sudden we're wanting to zone the whole county. One thing I'll say there is we are a capitalistic society. I mean, if I buy a piece of ground, I should be free to do with it what I please, as long as I get it, like being in town and stuff where houses are, 100 feet apart, 50 feet apart. But my closest house to my property is probably close to 1,000 feet. Out where we're at, I don't think these zoning laws have a place. I would ask that our county commissioners would listen to us and hopefully side with us that we don't want to see that zoning come out there where we are. I'm fine with zoning where it currently is, and I'm fine with even strengthening some of those zoning laws where it currently is. But out where it's not zoned now, I didn't build out there back in 2016 for no reason. When I built out there, I looked, there's other places I could have went, and I said, hey, that's not zoned. They can't really tell me what I can and can't build out there. They can't. Right now, as these zoning laws stand, yeah, you're not being specific about what roof pitch we have, what colors we use and stuff like that. But who's to say in 10 years that they don't start getting more and more strict, and that's going to fall for the entire county. I work in a community that's like that. I live up here. I work in Benton County, Arkansas. The entire county is zoned down there. They can tell you what roof pitch you have, what colors you have. If you have an accessory building, the roof pitch and colors have to match. I don't want to live like that. I chose the small town out in the country life for a reason. If I wanted to live like that, I'd move down there. The cost of living is so much higher in areas like that. We don't want to see that drive our cost of living up. I don't want to see that drive our taxes up.
Well, when you talk about, I can speak to what you're talking about down there, but when you talk about that kind of stuff, that don't come through zoning. That comes through building codes.
So
we don't have building codes.
We don't have building codes now, but if you zone everything, you would be able to enact building codes. And you could enact the same building codes for all that area then.
I would say building codes, being a building code official for 10 years, I could say that building codes are probably more property protected than what zoning is.
So as it stands where I'm at,
Zoning or building codes could go in out there, building codes could still go countywide without zoning. Am I right, Josh?
Yes and no. So building codes will require the same type of process that zoning goes through, but
does an area have to be zoned in order to enact building codes?
No.
So if the entire county was completely unzoned, you could enforce
you can still
building
enact
codes.
building codes. You just have to go through the same process we're going through right now.
Okay.
People can buy a piece of property from somebody and they can place a covenant and tell you what your building codes for that covenant could be.
Yeah, so as it stands now with me being unzoned,
Yeah.
I don't have to get permits to add on to buildings
Nope.
I don't have to get a permit to build a new structure. The way these new zoning laws are built, if I decide to build a machine shed out there on my property, do I gotta go get permits?
Yep.
Yeah, and do I have specific rules that I have to follow to build that shed?
Not necessarily, no. We don't have
None
to-
at all.
We want to know what the accessory structure is. That has a bathroom, what its purpose for. That's the only thing. Because if you're gonna add an additional residential, so I'm gonna put a mother-in-law suite out there, I gotta know, but frankly, nobody's gonna go in your building and look the hell you're doing in there.
Now, but by passing something,
Now, passing these zoning rules, nobody's going into your property because we don't have a right of entry into
Yeah.
these zoning rules. Nobody's going in there to take a look. It's about proper structure, orderly planning,
Yeah.
the same way that it's being built here.
I would just like to caution everybody, when you, and I know these don't seem to be that strict now, but once we open that door up and allow people to start telling us what to do, it just gets more and more.
Understand? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Who's this, Jim? Mikey? From Arizona.
Yes. Hi, yeah, good evening, board members. My name is Mei Ying, and I work for a company called Rivan Energy, and we are a solar developer. We have a very early stage project here, but I fully understand and respect that we are not talking anything specific about solar tonight. But yeah, we just want to take this opportunity to say thank you and say we appreciate how much effort the county has been putting together to work on this county-wide zoning regulation. And this is our goal, to work collaboratively and in a responsive way with the county, with the nonprofit organization, and with the local residents to build the project. And we really appreciate to have the clear and predictable standards for us to follow. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Julianne?
I'll leave my time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Judy Prince?
Hello, Judy Prince. I just wanted to say I do support the zoning. I know it's kind of something we have never really supported in the past, but neither did we suspect that our agricultural areas would be potentially at risk for such developments as are now coming forth. My other comment tonight is I wanted to know if there is a procedure for making editing to the present proposal as far as grammatical and possibly content, maybe some deletions and additions. I don't know what the procedure for that would be.
It's been happening to him.
If there's grammar, please submit it to me in an email. I will tell you that I'm the worst editor of my own work. That's why I have my assistant, who is a former newspaper editor, that looks over these things for me. And I will tell you that she doesn't get drawn into this because she costs money too. And I want her to spend her time and the county's money and everything on the final product. As for content, if you do have suggestions about content, like we said in the notices, you have an ability to email May and give those comments. Those are things that could be put into the record. We would have preferred them to be before the hearing, but since we still do have another hearing, please submit those comments. If you have a specific amendment, you can give it a suggestion. Please say which article, section, and subsection.
Okay, I have no more people that have signed in to speak, but I'm going to change from what our plan was originally and open it up if there's somebody that may have some comments about what's in these articles that we have not discussed on the floor already. I'd like to speak. Okay.
I'm Michael Platter. First question, who makes the final decision?
Board of County Commissioners.
Okay, county commissioners do. Second question, where's the comprehensive plan?
Comprehensive plan's being worked, but part of comprehensive plan is zoning and rules.
You talked about deadlines. We haven't followed a deadline one. Nothing should be done until that comprehensive plan is finished. You've got moratoriums in place, you got all this other stuff. You can't go rushing through with zoning till you have this comprehensive plan that has stopped everything else in the county.
I'll be happy to answer that, if you allow me. Comprehensive planning requires proper zoning because I cannot plan if I don't know what is going to be zoned and what is not going to be zoned. There are specific commercial areas that are being planned along 400 Highway, along 47 Highway, along 69 Highway that are in unzoned areas. And if I don't know that I can hold off that area for commercial development, there's no point in me doing it. Additionally, there's other zoned areas where if it's not going to be zoned, I can't hold off for industrial improvement. And other things is that there are several parts of that comprehensive plan that have already been put in places of work. We have the Department of Transportation, we have the Department of Commerce that are talking about grants and funding on how we do different projects. All those things come together. It's comprehensive in one part. I can't take one section and release it without everything else being completed in a step prior to it.
You make the point for us that are unzoned, we don't have to wait. If we're unzoned, we can build our building. We can build our silo. We can build our hog farm.
Yeah.
And do you think we're so stupid that we don't go talk to our neighbors and say, hey, you know, most of us have been out there a long time, a lot of years. We understand our neighborhood. We understand the people around us.
Yeah.
This is very emotional from the side of the renewable energies. Let's get through the point. You guys didn't want to talk about it tonight. That's fine. But for all the other reasons, we're operating, we all get along. We know what we want to do. We know what we want to accomplish. And I shouldn't be able to tell Ross Martinson that he can't build a cattle confinement barn. See what I'm saying? He owns that ground. He's paying his taxes. We're not all equal in the county. I don't know how much you've driven around District Number 1. Take some time and drive every mile and tell me they are equal to every mile in District 3 or District 2.
I understand.
And then we'll have a good argument.
Thank you, sir.
The only thing I would say that I heard him say there was that the things he's addressing are all agriculture. And if my memory is correct from one of our meetings, that you told me that agriculture is governed by the state of Kansas anyway.
It is guaranteed by the state of Kansas by right.
But the building and the buildings and stuff is not if you.
Exactly. Right.
Actually,
if I want to build a confinement barn, or you even said a hog barn when Randy was up there, you had to talk to your neighbors. And another thing, I don't care about Lynn County, I don't care about Benton County, I don't care about Levesque County. You know, you can't make one example that makes your point and then shoot down all the rest of them. You wanted to shoot Mark down because Benton County, because you said, well, it's going to be under another code or whatever. He's right. Who's to say this doesn't bridge into this other process?
I'll be happy to address that as well. As I said earlier, there's going to be permitted uses that all you do is get a permit. And we say, here's your permit, you're done. Machine shop, if it's used for agricultural purposes, you get your permit, you're done. A confinement barn is the same thing. It's for agricultural purposes. You get your permit, it's done. If it is agricultural and you are in an agricultural zone, you get your permit, you're done. No conditional use permit, no going in front of the board. You get your permit, it's done. In fact, that exact same law is currently being debated right now in the state Senate, where under the laws of the state of Kansas, if a zoning rule has a permitted use, then there is no ability to the county, as this law is written, to say no. What you were asking me is all to do with your normal course of business as an agricultural community in District 1. All of that is permitted by right. I understand that there's some things that aren't permitted by right that are conditional uses. There are certain reasons why they're behind that. People that go and build things willy-nilly have problems. And it's not necessarily you that's going to have the problem. It's going to be the person that you sell your property to, your children down the line, because zoning isn't a new thing in the county. And in fact, from my reading of the record, it's actually been attempted to go zoning countywide 4 different times. This isn't a new thing. It's a thing that just keeps on popping up and popping up. And it wouldn't keep on popping up if it wasn't something that was considered needed.
Well, why don't the people that are in that area, zone 1, why don't we vote on it?
And that's a possibility. The county commission might just say, let's have a vote.
I'm not talking to everybody, just the ones that are in there, and they have to live there.
And I understand that that's a possibility. That's a special election. That's outside of my purview. My job is a consultant. I give suggestions. Your elected officials make decisions.
I have another question.
Come up to the podium.
Please come up to the podium.
Yes, state your name.
Martin Axtee.
Okay.
So it's just, so like, I kind of described my property earlier. I have a home and a business on the same piece of property. So how do you zone that?
Well, actually, you zone it in so agricultural businesses are allowed on agricultural.
So it's not, I'm not a farmer. I work on agricultural equipment. My closet brings this tractor. It's sitting in my shop right now. I take it in the shop, I pull it apart, I fix what's wrong, and I put it back
It's actually perfect, because guess what? There's a conditional use permit for exactly what you do. You go through your conditional use process, we're done.
Okay, so what is the permit that I have to get for that?
Conditional use permit for a agricultural mechanic.
Okay, and who decides whether or not I am for sure allowed to do that?
This board?
This board right here.
And what is that? What's the cost associated with that?
Those fee schedules have not been adopted by the county commission yet.
Okay. And then what is the time frame on something like that? So
a quick conditional use like that could have a turnaround of 30 days.
Okay. So what gets done about those of us that already have it in place?
That's called grandfathered in. I don't care. Just let me know that it's there.
So if I'm grandfathered in currently, if I decide to add an additional 50 by 40 add-on to the current shop, do I have to get permits?
Yep.
Okay. So just,
currently, without the unzoned, the answer is no.
Yeah.
If it was zoned, you're adding on to it.
Yeah.
Please go through the process.
Yeah. So once again, I just caution those of us that are out there to speak up. We don't want that.
Okay, do I have anybody else that wants to speak? That's something that hasn't been said.
Yes, sir. My name's Tim Stephen. I've lived out in the western bound towards Walnut. I've lived there ever since the railroad. My family's lived there ever since the railroad deeded land to us. So it's about 175 years. Not one time have we had a dispute with a neighbor. Not one time. He mentioned it all these times. Not one time do I ever realize anywhere in 3 or 4 miles that we've ever had a dispute with a neighbor, or neighbors had disputes with one another. So his to keep disputes down, there's not been disputes. I mean, the only dispute I know of was for stupidity. It wasn't building or anything like that. So I have a big problem with Uncle Sam stepping in and trying to tell us what we can build, what we can't build, when we've been successful for 175 years. And these people that's from the zoned area, they don't have a say. This should be our neighbors are the ones that decide. If our neighbors, all my neighbors decided that, hey, we want zoning, I'd say, okay, that's what my neighbors want. But that's not sounds like what's happening. And I'm concerned about how this is kind of getting pushed through.
It's not being pushed through.
Well, it looks like it. It looks like it to me.
It's going through in a timely fashion.
Your opinion and mine are different.
I agree.
And you're entitled to yours, and I'm entitled to mine.
Right.
Nobody's telling you what you can build. If you want to build a shop, you can build a shop.
Well, what happens if I want to build a slaughterhouse?
Exactly.
Well, you have to go through the whole entire process. You have to talk to the FDA, you have to, I mean, there's
rules, but hey, right now,
Are your neighbors,
I don't-
are your neighbors gonna like a slaughterhouse?
I think my neighbors probably would say it's okay, because it would probably benefit them in the long run. Now, that's not necessarily true, true, but where I live, I don't think they care.
What about the next neighbors?
My next neighbor's a mile and a half down the road.
No.
After they sell.
That's not my worry.
Don't buy there.
That's not my worry. My worry is not who buys the property next to me when it sells 20 years down the road.
But it could be an issue.
Well,
It could not be either.
yeah. What if, folks?
What if?
Yeah. That's what we're going to. Don't tell me what ifs. Tell me solutions or answers.
Zoning is a solution.
I don't believe it is. Same way, our opinions are different.
Correct.
And like I said, let the county commissioners, if they put it up for a vote and our thing votes for it, I'll go along. But till then, I'm against this.
Thank you.
Yes. Anybody else? Last chance. Seeing nobody, we're close the public hearing.
All right.